Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on Vote 27, Office of the Chief Justice, Appropriation Bill.
The Honorable the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services is invited to the podium.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, for the opportunity. The Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in absentia, the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Honorable John Jeffrey, the Honorable members, distinguished members of the Judiciary, the heads of professional law bodies, Ms. M. Sijosongwe, the Secretary General of the Office of the Chief Justice and the entire leadership of the Chief Justice. You may not have seen our first Black president, but you can be reassured that your contribution to society is still growing at a time when we need it the most. The young man you personally groomed in your offices as a candidate attorney and an associate today leads the judiciary of the Republic of South Africa and the highest court in the land. It is also worth noting in a significant way that this year marks the centenary year of women in the legal profession. The first woman to be admitted as an advocate in South Africa was Irene Giffin in 1923. 23 years later, the first woman attorney was Constance Mary Hall in 1926. 99 years later, the Republic of South Africa affirms a Black woman to be the second in command of the highest office in the judiciary. Commendable as it may be, we know all too well that the journey is far from complete. Honorable members, the Office of the Chief Justice budget we are tabling today comprises of 1.3 billion rands for voted funds and a further direct charge to the National Revenue Fund of 1.125 billion rands for judges' remuneration. 79.2% of the total voted budget of the department is allocated to its core programs, namely Superior Court Services, as well as judicial education and support. Honorable members, despite our government having lifted the coronavirus restrictions, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic coupled with the budget restrictions resulting from the suppressed economic environment still pose limitations to the operations of government departments. The OCJ, like all government departments, continue to experience budget cuts, which hampered its capacity to perform in line with expectations. Despite these challenges, it remains the OCJ's aim to continue to discharge its constitutional mandate of supporting the judiciary effectively and efficiently. After rallying in the third quarter of 2022, the South African gross domestic product, the GDP, declined by 1.3% in the fourth quarter, October to December 2022. Although the GDP reached an all-time high in 2022, the economy has only grown by 0.3% from the 2019 pre-pandemic reading of 4.5 trillion rands. In this constrained environment, the Office of the Chief Justice will have to be innovative and develop new ways of operating to keep the courts operational. I usually say, as such, the OCJ will continue to reprioritize its budget and operations to ensure that the delivery of core services, namely support to courts, is not adversely affected. Important in this regard is ensuring the adequate capacitation of the department. The budget reductions implemented since the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic have decreased from the 2023-2024 voted budget allocation of the OCJ by 144 million rands, which is almost 10.2% decrease. The effect of this resource scaling back means that the compensation of employees' budget of the department has been reduced by 116.1 million rands, and the budget of judges' salaries has been reduced by 183.3 million rands in this financial year. A 5.5 reduction to the operational budget has also been implemented, translating to an effective 28.3 million rands reduction. Budget constraints limit the capability of the Office of the Chief Justice to deliver services and support to the judiciary, and further impacts on key human resource strategies such as recruitment of people with disabilities and women on SMS level. Despite these inhibitors, the department will continue striving to maintain the vacancy rate of 10% or lower. A key consideration in a constrained economic environment, such as the one our country finds itself in, is ensuring that none of our precious resources are misused and misappropriated through fraud and corruption. The leadership of the OCJ takes seriously their fiduciary duty to protect the resources entrusted to them by the South African public. The department is constantly reviewing internal measures to curb fraud and corruption. Important in this regard are the lessons the organization continues to learn through the processes of accounting in this house. The Office of the Chief Justice has decided to review the decision with regards to Reuters UK Ltd in relation to case line. The awarding of the contract is now being reviewed in the High Court in Gauteng. This will ensure that the process that must be followed must be compliant, and there must be accountability for everyone who played a role in the previous processes. We are also pleased to report progress on how we are mitigating load shedding in all our superior courts. We have installed generators in 18 superior courts. 5 courts are earmarked to receive generators, and 1 more is earmarked for a service solar system. This is also work in progress in regards to the magistrates' courts throughout the country, aimed to mitigate the effects of load shedding. On behalf of the Office of the Chief Justice, I wish to extend our gratitude to the guidance the department has received from members of this House during the various oversight engagements held with members of the committee and this committee. Honorable members, as alluded to earlier, this year marks the 29th anniversary of the South Africa's first democratic elections that ushered in an equal, representative, and a non-racial society. Although we have made remarkable progress since 1994 in many endeavors of our national importance, the specter of inequality, poverty, and unemployment remains one of the most glaring impediments to the South Africans' goal of national unity and social cohesion. We also dare not forget the terrible past from which we have come from, nor should we forget the many sacrifices made by patriots to ensure our democracy and freedom. Through the democratic dispensation we enjoy today, we have a well-renowned constitution that anchors our society. The constitution has created institutions to ensure that the state is accountable to the citizens. It transforms all arms of the states into institutions that serve all the people of the country on the basis of democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. It guarantees the basic freedoms and rights of all citizens, such as the freedom of expression, association, equality, amongst others. Our judiciary, as one of the 3 arms of the states, derives its mandate and authority from our constitution. All South Africans have the constitutional duty to respect the role of the judiciary in our society and ensure that it is protected from unwarranted attacks in the exercise of its judicial authority. As the executive arm of the state, we reaffirm our commitment to the doctrine of the separation of powers and to the constitutional directive to assist and protect the courts to ensure their independence, impartiality, dignity, accessibility, and effectiveness. I'm certain this House will agree with me when I declare that we have a judiciary that is committed to the rule of law and the protection of human rights. We are thankful to the crafters of our Constitution for the protections afforded to the judiciary to allow it to apply the law impartially and without fear, favor, or prejudice. We will open engagements with regards to the judicial governance model in this current financial year, and hopeful consensus will be found amongst all the stakeholders, the executive, the judiciary, and parliament, and also the people of South Africa. Honorable members, I take this opportunity to extend warm congratulations to Madam Justice Mandi Samaya, who was appointed the Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa by His Excellency the President Ramaphosa, effective from 1 September 2022. The appointment of the Deputy Chief Justice Maya to the highest echelons of the leadership of the judiciary bodes well for our efforts to transform the judiciary. Announcing the appointment of the Deputy Chief Justice, President Ramaphosa said the following, and I quote, "Justice Maya will contribute to the ongoing transformation process of the judiciary. Her ascendancy to the Apex Court will serve as a beacon of hope for scores of young women and make them believe that South Africa is a country of possibilities, regardless of gender, social or economic circumstances." Close quote. We look forward to a long and fruitful relationship with the Deputy Chief Justice as we continue to work to improve the efficiencies of our justice system. Honorable members, only 7 years remains before the year 2030, the year in which we hope to have achieved many of our national goals as laid out in the National Development Plan, Vision 2030. Since its launch in August 2012, the National Development Plan has served as an action plan for securing the future of South Africans as described in the Constitution. The OCJ supports the judiciary in its contribution to Chapter 14 of the NDP, promoting accountability and fighting corruption. To this end, the focus area of the judiciary is in strengthening judicial governance and the rule of law. This focus area is fundamental in guiding the development of the strategic priorities as outlined in the 2023-24 OCJ Annual Performance Plan, the APP. The OCJ 2023-24 APP therefore articulates key priority areas which are central to improving the governance and efficiency of the department. They are the following: implementing initiatives that contribute to broadening and improving access to justice and services of the superior courts, ensuring an efficient court system, improving efficiencies in court administration through modernization of system, processes, and infrastructure, implementing initiatives to address the impact of COVID-19 on the operations of the courts, contributing towards the revival of our economy and job creation. To enhance service delivery, the education and training for both serving and aspirant judicial officers will continue to be a priority for the OCJ in the current financial year. This will contribute towards the transformation of the judiciary. Increasing the number of judicial officers on the bench in conformity with constitutional obligations remains a priority. In this regard, the resourcing and capacitation of the South African Judicial Education Institute remains crucial in ensuring that available education and training courses are offered to serving and aspirant judicial officers. Although SAJ has successfully implemented virtual judicial training, the challenge is that load shedding has adverse impact on the delivery of that training. It is therefore imperative to consider adjusting the budget of the institute in order not to lose the momentum of enhancing judicial skills. We express our sincere gratitude to Chief Justice Raymond Zondo for resuscitating the Aspirant Women Judges Program, started by the first woman Minister of Justice in a democratic South Africa, Ms. Bridget Mabandla, and aptly naming the program after her. The Bridget Babandla Aspirant Women Judges Program aims to address the underrepresentation of women in the judiciary by creating a pool from which women judges can be appointed. Through this training program for aspirant women judges, women practitioners with potential to be appointed as women judges are identified, enrolled, and exposed to a specially designed judicial education program to enhance their opportunity for appointment to the bench. We look forward to positive feedback from this program. In order to achieve enhanced judicial performance, the department will ensure that an increased number of judicial education courses are conducted, that research monographs, monitoring reports on the management of litigations, and reports on secretarial support provided to the JSC are produced. To further accelerate the provision of judicial education and training, SIJ will also leverage technology by conducting some of the courses through virtual platforms. The OCJ continues to embrace the advantage that technology presents and leverages on it. The modernization and digitization of court system remain key priority for OCJ to improve access to justice for all by utilizing technology in court hearings. The use of technology in court proceeding has proven an invaluable tool in ensuring access to justice and the safety of court users during the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, the OCJ will continue to prioritize the use of technology through the rollout of its court online system. This system is meant to take advantage of the digital transformation initiatives that seeks to reduce the need for physical infrastructure ownership and leverage on existing technology platforms that include cloud computing and electronic document management to address the current storage space challenges in our courts. Honorable members, the role of the judiciary and the administration of justice in our society is a complex one. As more than just being adjudicators of disputes, the judiciary has to respond to broader social needs. For our courts to be effective in delivering justice, the general public must have confidence in their ability to do so. This implies some important questions relating to judges' legitimacy and public trust, judicial accountability, and efficient administration of justice, which are essential conditions for judges to effectively and efficiently serve society. Our judiciary has over the years shown a profound understanding of this imperative, as captured in our Constitution. These include many judgments, particularly by the Constitutional Court, that have reflected a progressive interpretation of the Constitution for the advancement of human rights and the improvement of socio-economic conditions for all South Africans. One aspect of the role of the judiciary is to ensure that everyone is treated equally and protected by the law, regardless of their gender, religion, or the color of their skin. An independent judiciary ensures that everyone, including minorities, can access their rights as captured in the Bill of Rights and that these can never be taken away from them. It is incumbent on all organs of state, therefore, to assist and protect the judiciary to ensure its continued independence, impartiality, dignity, accessibility, and effectiveness. An important part of this responsibility for organ of state is ensuring that judiciary is adequately resourced to undertake its constitutional mandate. Ladies and gentlemen and honorable members, we present the budget of the OCJ to you today in this spirit. Supporting this budget vote is a means to ensuring the constitutional and independence of the judiciary. We call on this House to continue cooperating with us to affirm the role of the judiciary in the protection of human rights and advancement of our democracy. Chairperson and honorable members, I therefore present the 2023-2024 budget vote for 27 of the Office of the Chief Justice for your support and approval. I also wish to take this opportunity to recognize Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, the Acting President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, Justice Tkolapetse, the Deputy President Obrili Dwaba, as the Chairperson of the Magistrate Commission, as well as other heads of courts and all members of our judiciary for their continuous service to the people of South Africa. I also acknowledge the OCJ Audit and Risk Committee for their oversight role. Finally, I thank the Secretary General of the OCJ, Ms. Meme Sijosonkwe, the management team of OCJ and the staff for their unwavering commitment to service and for always raising the bar higher. I thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Jim Magonishe, the next speaker. Welcome, Honorable Magwanisha.
Maybe to start with a disclaimer, House Chair, I'm not Honorable Magwanishe. But I rise on behalf of Honorable Magwanishe and in his place, as I wish him speedy recovery. He had not just asked me, he commanded me to come here and read what he would have presented. We agreed that I was not going to change anything in terms of what he prepared. And so allow me, Honorable Chair, to share his message. We note the Minister's statement that the policy on judicial governance and court administration is now ready for engagement with stakeholders. We have urged the finalization of the policy and the accompanying legislation in a number of our previous reports. We therefore intend to closely monitor the progress of this project towards achieving the institutional independence of the judiciary, a very important aspect. When visiting courts countrywide, the committee witnessed the many very serious infrastructure and maintenance-related problems at our courts. The committee has also learned of the judiciary's frustration regarding this situation. In short, the infrastructure problems are undermining the delivery of justice to the people. The committee has made its findings known to the judiciary at a recent meeting and will also engage the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, as well as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure on its observations in the near future. We welcome the information that the Supreme Court of Appeal experiences load shedding, a matter that the committee had previously raised with the OCJ. We note the OCJ's assurance that almost all superior is going about ensuring that backup water is available at courts. And this is an important point, because at some point you would have three converging problems in a particular court where you've got a magistrate, you've got subs, you've got DCS, you've got all of the stakeholders, but the court cannot function, which is not a problem of that court, but it is because there's no water, there's no electricity, there's no network. The committee welcomes the progress made so far with the court online project, but it is concerned that system defects and external dependencies, including pending litigation, pose a threat to the planned rollout of the project. As such, the committee will continue to regularly monitor the project's progress. We know that the OCJ has lost several experienced registrars, and this is placing considerable pressure on courts. It is likely to negatively affect the achievement of the quasi-judicial targets, and there may even be a need to revise the targets downwards in the next planning cycle. Further, the OCJ reports that it continues to experience a high staff turnover rate. The loss of experienced staff in critical positions is a risk to the organization. We have therefore asked the OCJ to report to us on what it is doing to both attract and retain the staff. The lack of space in our courts makes storing old court files very challenging. Although the committee understands that the implementation of the court online solution will assist, the solution would not address the challenge of storing older court records. We are informed that funding has been made available through the IJS to assist with the digitization of old court records, and have asked the OCJ for further details. At the recent JSC interviews, questions were raised concerning the quality of judgment of several of the candidates. These judgments were delivered while the candidates were acting as judges. The committee therefore is pleased that SAJA has already begun to engage with the judges' presidents on the training needs of aspirant judges. We note further that the provision of library materials remains a function of the Justice Department, but welcome the OCJ's undertaking to monitor the updating of library materials in the superior courts on a quarterly basis. The committee notes the update provided by OCJ on the investigation of and the litigation of surrounding case lines tender irregularities, including that the SIU investigation is completed. We will continue to monitor the matter very closely. The committee, having considered the Office of the Chief Justice Annual Performance Plan 2023-2024, recommends to the House that it be approved. The committee, having considered the Budget Vote 27, Office of the Chief Justice and Judicial Administration, recommends that to the House that it be approved. I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Breitenbach.
Honourable House Chair, honourable members, may I start by saying that I hope that the Honourable Magwanisha recovers quickly, if only to protect us from having to listen to Mr. Yankee reading his speeches to us for the next 2 weeks. Honourable members, I must today express my deep concern about Minister Lamola's lack of support for the Office of the Chief Justice overall. As members of Parliament, we must ensure that our leaders are held accountable for their actions and their inactions. And in this case, we must hold the Minister accountable for his department's failure to adequately support the Office of the Chief Justice. The Office of the Chief Justice is an essential institution in our democratic system. It is responsible for upholding the rule of law, ensuring the independence of the judiciary, and protecting the rights and freedoms of all South Africans. The Chief Justice is also responsible for appointing judges through the Judicial Services Commission, managing the judiciary's budget and providing administrative support to the courts. In short, the Office of the Chief Justice plays a critical role in ensuring that justice is done in our country. Unfortunately, the Minister and his department have failed in their duty to support the Office of the Chief Justice. He has not provided the necessary resources and support to enable the Chief Justice to carry out his duties effectively. As a result, the Chief Justice, through the JSC, has been unable to optimally appoint judges to vacant positions, and the courts have been unable to function effectively as a result. This has had a significant impact on our justice system, causing delays in the resolution of cases and denying justice to many South Africans. It has a significant and negative effect on the access to justice for so many South Africans. Furthermore, as a result, the courts are constantly and chronically under-resourced, with not only a shortage of judges, but of support staff and basic infrastructure. This has led to the significant delays in court proceedings and has undermined public confidence in the justice system. Risk management is poor to non-existent. Contracts with service providers are constantly allowed to lapse with nothing in their place. Court recording equipment chronically breaks down with no maintenance contracts in place. This regularly brings many courts in the country to a grinding halt. Judges have little in the way of administrative support, and access to local and international law reports and journals on a regular basis is but a pipe dream. A judiciary-led court administration model, much discussed but seldom seen, is long overdue, and continued budget reductions will ensure that this vital implementation is further delayed. In his budget speech last year, the Minister announced that he intended to introduce a policy on judicial governance and court administration to Cabinet in this financial year, as well as introduce to Parliament legislation that will overhaul the lower courts towards the establishment of a single judiciary. This will encompass the transfer of functions and risk management for the Department of Justice and constitutional development to the Office of the Chief Justice. Recent oversight visits by the committee have brought into sharp focus serious challenges with regards to infrastructure and maintenance issues. Security at courts and the digitisation of courts records. The oversight visit also highlighted the dilapidated nature of some of the court buildings, with some structural challenges at the Mafeking High Court and Potchefstroom Magistrates Court, which is currently uninhabitable and has been so for more than a year with little or no progress. Frustration was expressed by the judiciary with communication challenges between the Department of Justice, the Office of the Chief Justice, and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. These challenges pose significant risks that need to be managed collaboratively. Many of these issues are having a significant impact on the work of the judiciary, who are forced to manage issues around maintenance rather than their core function. which affect the effective administration and standards for the exercise of judicial functions on all courts. An area of some concern and requiring urgent attention is that of fraudulent court orders. In the light of the reported fraudulent rehabilitation order presented by the erstwhile Tshwane Mayor, steps must urgently be taken to ensure the integrity of court orders. A complete lack of proper planning and risk management with regard to load shedding means that far too many courts in the country are unable to function for a full court day, or sometimes at all. Particularly hard hit in this regard are the courts in smaller towns and smaller centres, where the majority of South Africans must go to access justice. The Minister has failed them, dismally. The failure leads to a constant and chronic failure of other essential electronic equipment, which has the lamentable result of ever-decreasing court hours, a situation already the cause of great concern, and an ever-increasing backlog of cases, which just continues to grow exponentially with little or no hope of ever being addressed. While the Cabinet have the luxury of fully paid-for generators to shield them from the dark, this courtesy is not extended to essential services. What a disgrace. It's important to note that the Minister and his department's lack of support for the Office of the Chief Justice is not just a matter of policy or ideology. It is a violation of the Constitution and the rule of law. The Constitution requires the government to respect and protect the independence of the judiciary and to ensure that the courts have the resources they need to function effectively. The failure to provide the support is a breach of constitutional duty and undermines the integrity of our democracy. In conclusion, the lack of fiscal and other support for the Office of the Chief Justice is a significant cause for concern. It has had a detrimental impact on our justice system, causing delays, undermining the independence of the judiciary and denying justice to many South Africans. We must hold our leaders accountable for their actions, and in this case, we must demand that the necessary support for the Office of the Chief Justice is provided. It is our responsibility as citizens to ensure that our democracy is strong and viable, and for that, we must have an adequately funded and independent and strong judiciary. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Honourable Yako.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, when the former President Jacob Zuma proclaimed the Office of the Chief Justice as a department with its own budget in 2010, we applauded the move because it further cemented the aspirational goal of an independent judiciary in the country. The independence of the judiciary is sacrosanct in a country with a history such as this one that we have, in a country with excessive inequalities and humongous gaps between the rich, who happen to be predominantly white, and the poor, who happen to be predominantly Black. The independence of the judiciary is further a priority because of the rampant corruption amongst those who lead. We must never have a situation wherein certain politicians and their handlers can at any time capture the judiciary and a judicial reasoning in the country of their nefarious interests. Since the adoption of the Constitution in 1996, up until the retirement of the Chief Justice Mogoeng, there was always a certainty that even when the judges got things wrong, the judiciary itself was beyond capture. The mistakes we made, bona fide mistakes, and the judiciary always had capacity to self-correct. It is for these reasons that we have always supported the budget votes of the Office of the Chief Justice in the past. Since the ascendancy of the comrade Raymond Zondo to the Office of the Chief Justice, there is no longer that confidence and certainty that the judiciary is led by a person who is beyond a reach of the greasy and dirty hands of the politicians. Firstly, the matter of his appointment left much to be desired. The Judicial Service Commission sat and interviewed 4 candidates, and after intense deliberations, recommended that Justice Mandi Samaya be appointed as the Chief Justice. Mr. Ramaphosa, without reasons, decided to ignore that recommendation and appointed Comrade Zondo as Chief Justice. The only inference to be drawn is that the appointment of Comrade Zondo was that payback time for his susceptibility to dangle in politics and hold politically functional views on a range of issues. The dangers were all there to see for everyone. Even while he was still acting Chief Justice, Comrade Zondo saw it fit to enter into a public spat with politicians on the role of constitution and on the suspected capture of the judiciary by politicians. While the Chief Justice, Comrade Zondo, recently made public statements about his views on the former President Jacob Zuma and the Guptas, both Zuma and the Guptas may legitimate upon the Constitutional Court, and Zondo may have to sit and listen to people he has already condemned as corrupt. Would it be unreasonable, therefore, for Mr. Zuma to never want Mr. Zondo presiding over his affairs? Would it be unreasonable for him to not trust the impartiality of the judiciary? All these would have to be prevented had Comrade Zondo confined himself to adjudicating matters before courts instead of wanting to be a politician. The same Comrade Chief Justice once boldly proclaimed that the election of Cyril Ramaphosa as president of both the ANC and the country saved this country from collapse. Would he ever preside on a fair and impartial manner when he is required to make judgments on the conduct of Mr. Ramaphosa and those associated with him if he is of the view that Mr. Ramaphosa is of a godsend? While dabbling in politics, Comrade Zondo has ignored the core functions of his office. The administration of justice across the country is collapsing, and that is the truth. There has been no intervention made to improve efficiency in the master's office. We have a master's office in Mthatha that is currently paying 100,000 for a very dilapidated church. It's costing us 100,000, whereas you cannot access the church inside. The filing system is atrocious. There is no sort of any function that will prevent any files in that office from being burnt down to the ground. And you see nothing wrong. We have judges who have obviously not been trained sufficiently and were unable to deliver judgments on time. We have judges who delay judgments just to delay time, primarily because they have political interests. The administration of the lower courts and the level of the judicial decisions taken by the lower courts leave many of our people vulnerable to miscarriages of justice. In his own annual judiciary report, Comrade Zondo bemoaned the incompetence and lack of proper leadership at the Land Claims Court, leading to abnormal delays in the finalization of courts in that court, of cases in that court. The importance of the Office of the Chief Justice is, however, not diminished by the fact that the leader is out of his depth. We are particularly in support of the judicial education function of the office, even though we would like for them to replenish the library in their offices, because it leaves much to be desired, and it leads to a situation where we have to undermine the decisions that are made because we don't have a library that is supplemented at the time. We will want to see more money channeled towards this function. And for this reason, we are in support of this budget of the Office of the Chief Justice, and we're looking forward to the end of the term of Comrade Zondo, so that there can be a proper administration of justice in this country again. And I think I would like to say that when we go to the courts and when we go to the Office of the Chief Justice and when we go and see what happens at the courts, there's a lot to be desired, and it leaves much to be desired because it speaks to a lack of competence. And when we think of our judges, we always think of a high level of efficiency, of a high level of work that is being done and intelligence. And it seems that when we go into these offices, there doesn't seem to be a scene that is speaking to what is supposed to be happening in our country. So we would like more to be happening and more to be working on, and we'd like to see more work being done in terms of the work and the efficiency of the Office of the Chief Justice.
Thank you very much.
We support
Honorable
this vote. Thank you.
On a point of order, Chairperson.
Yes, what's your point of order?
Chairperson, I just want you to remind, once again, maybe perhaps our guest in the gallery and staff, that they must not participate within the debates, because throughout the debate, and I didn't want to disturb Commissioner Yoli, throughout the debate, they have been making comments and disturbing interjections. So can you just remind them what is their function here, otherwise they have to leave?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
I saw them, don't do that, I seen them. I have seen them, I have seen them, and don't do that. I can point them one by one, and if they want, I will remove them. If you want trouble, I will do it. Don't do that, don't do that.
No.
Even on the simplest thing you want to be corrupt. Simplest thing you want to be corrupt. Young man.
No, but the language is uncalled for, Chair.
Honorable Chair,
You are turning this house into a circus. The manner in which you go about with your objection is totally unacceptable. I have not commented about it. You have made your point and I was going to comment about it. But the manner in which you go about it, Honorable Member, is totally unacceptable. I was going to deal with that, but the manner in which you go about it is totally unacceptable, Honorable Member. So I humbly request you not to do that. And I humbly request all members not to interject the manner in which you are doing. It's totally unacceptable, Honorable Member. It's not my intention to insult you if you take that as an insult.
just on a point of
Judge,
order, Honorable
what's your
Chair.
point of order, sir?
My point of order, Honorable Chair, is as a presiding officer, as you are addressing this House, no member should interrupt and speak as you are speaking. And I would like you to make sure that those members do not do that when you are addressing. They're already doing it already, as I'm on the floor and I'm addressing that point of order. It is not allowed, Honorable Chair.
Thank you.
Please, House Chair.
Honorable Member, can I make this request? Members have a right to say what they want to say in the House. No one disputes that. But we all have the responsibility to observe the decorum of the House. No member of the public will take us seriously as members of Parliament if we behave at times the way some of us do. It is totally unacceptable. What Honorable Mhlangwini raised, it's a legitimate point, but visitors are not expected to participate in the House. It's quite understandable, and no one disputes that. However, the manner in which we do it is not correct. At the same time, the Honorable Nkosi was not correct. I was going to mention that Honorable Nkosi, please address me if you have a problem. Not a member in the House directly. Then we end up with a chaos that is ensuing now, which is totally unacceptable and it's not expected of us. So I humbly request you, let's keep the decorum of the House. It's our responsibility, all of us, whether you're opposition or not, or whether you are a leading party or not, but you have a responsibility to do that. The other thing, honorable members, that I want to bring to your attention is that it is general practice that when you refer to a member of the House, you refer to a member of the House as honorable or Mr. or Miss. It's a respectable way of doing it. That includes, honorable members, the judges. The judges of the court also should be referred to appropriately, so to speak. So that should be taken into
No,
consideration.
Chair, on a point of order. I think you're dictating now to how we speak our speeches and how we say what we want to address as parties. So I don't think that's appropriate for you to say.
Thank you very much. Without having to make a dialogue, I am saying honorable members should please consider that.
On a point of order,
Made a
Chair.
ruling,
Chair.
honorable member.
No, Chair. No,
Fine,
Chair.
fine. If you have an objection
No
about
way.
that, there are certain processes that you need to follow. But
Thank
at the
you.
moment,
We'll carry
that is
those
what I'm
processes,
saying.
but there's no way you can dictate to us
you are
as
most
a
welcome.
party as to how we speak our speeches, because we are allowed to have debates. That's what a debate is about, for us to have a freedom of speech into how we deliver those speeches. You cannot dictate to us as to how we say those speeches. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members.
Just on a point of order, Honorable Chair.
We do observe that members have a right to say what they want to say. We all have a freedom of speech, but it is done within certain parameters. And I have made a ruling on that, honorable member. I'm not going to debate today.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just want to add and repeat what you have said, Chair, and quote, in terms of Rule 88, Chairperson, which speaks about reflections on judges and holders of public office.
Which part? Which part?
Exactly, Rule 88.
Which part?
And I read it.
Which part did I say?
allowed to step
The chair's ruled, so you cannot. No ways. Your own member is sabotaging
Honorable
you.
Janche, thank you very much. No, I've noted that. Thank you.
Therefore, before I sit, it's going to be important, therefore, House Chairperson, I'm on the platform. You have allowed me to
Honorable
speak.
members.
I'm on the
Honorable
platform.
Janche, what's your point?
The point I'm asking, House Chair, is that I would want you to take this matter further, because this is undermining the authority of deciding.
Which part is undermining him? Which part? Comrade Zondo, is that undermining him?
Honorable Yako.
You're out of order.
Honorable Yako, that's exactly what I was just saying to the Honorable Nkosi. No, but please observe your own rules. What we are doing here is to implement your own rules, please.
Chair, I'm being very respectful to you. I
I
am
have not
acknowledging what you have
recognized you,
said.
Honorable Yako, I have not recognized you.
Okay, fine,
Can
Chair.
we follow the
Call.
rules, please?
Call, it's fine.
Honorable members, I want to repeat. If there is anything that you want to raise in the House, please raise your hand and request that I want to make a point of order. You will be allowed to do so. The rules that we are applying here are not the rules of the chairperson. They are your rules as political parties. Honorable Ntangwene, please give me a chance. So these are your rules. So let us observe them. Let us observe them. Yes, indeed, the chairperson is just as human as everybody, and he might interpret them wrong, but there are processes that we need to follow in attending to that. It cannot just be a free for all. By the way, where were we?
It was me next, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Singh. Honorable Singh is on a virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, let me start off by saying that it's very, very unfortunate that we as members of Parliament can hide behind freedom of speech in this House and cast aspersions, make offensive remarks, denigrate individuals that do not have an opportunity to respond in this particular House. But having said that, I can see Honorable Tangwini trying to shoo me away. That's the way they do things. I think we all aspire to an independent judiciary, and we would like this judiciary to be independent, although this ideal is not always met. Having said that, Honorable Chairperson, I think as the IFP, we have
Can you hold on, Honorable Singh? What's your point of order?
injury time, sir.
Honorable Chair, you have ruled on the matter that Honorable Singh is raising. If he does not understand the significance of being called a comrade, it's his own problem. I know it's the highest honor to be called a comrade as a cadre employee. And
thank you very much. I have ruled.
as a cadre employee,
I have ruled. Yes, Honorable Singh, I have ruled. And Honorable Matthias, I have ruled on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shall we continue, Honorable Singh?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I haven't even used the word comrade at all. I don't know where they get that word. I haven't even used it at all. I'm entitled to say what I want to say, and I believe that we must use this House in such a way that we do not denigrate people that are not able to defend themselves in this House. But having said that, we all aspire to an independent judiciary. But as the IFP, we've said before, and I say again, independence is not only, must also be in fact and in law.
Member, can you give Honorable Singh a chance? We can't hear him. Honorable Singh, could you please continue? The member is now quiet.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. As I was saying, I really need a lot of injury time on this. As I said, the independence of the judiciary must be both in terms of fact and in law. And we've said before as the IFP that if you want an independent judiciary, it must extend to the independence of the budget as well. And we don't have that at the moment because the budget is controlled by the minister, the minister responsible for this vote. So hopefully in time, we will find, we hope to find that the budget is allocated to the Office of the Chief Justice, like we do to the Office of the Auditor General, and they manage that budget and account for that budget to Parliament, as the Auditor General does to the Standing Committee on the Auditor General, of which I serve. Now, having said that, Honorable Chairperson, I think it's important for us to realize that there are delays in judgments. And we come across this, and although there are some rules and standards, delays in judgments means justice delayed is justice denied. But not only are there delays in judgments, but we also find from the hearing from the public and law practitioners that getting trial dates sometimes can take you a year to 18 months to get a trial date. Now that again is not satisfactory. And Minister, you'll have to work with the Office of the Chief Justice to see how this can be rectified. Now, Honorable Minister, you spoke about your budget earlier, and you said that the budget is not enough and there have been cutbacks. Well, let me tell you, Honorable Minister and Chairperson, if I was a member of the ruling party that has the majority in this committee and the majority in the Parliament, I will not support this budget. And the reason I will not support this budget is because we want to help you. We want to help you and the department carry out your functions effectively and efficiently. And if you don't have the resources, then you cannot do that. We have what is called the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act, which allows us as members of Parliament to propose adjustments to money bills. And here is another golden opportunity that's going by, that as a committee, we should actually use that to say to Treasury, more money should be allocated to the judiciary and or to this department. And this is something I think honorable colleagues in the next Parliament, they've got to seriously look at. I also note that 75 or 76% of the budget is consumed with the compensation of employees. Now that's well and good because we have judges, we have magistrates, and we have judicial officers that have to be paid. But Honorable Minister, I think the one area you've got to look at is the Independent Commission for Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, which also manages resources for members of Parliament. Now it takes them 12 months to come up with recommendations for increase in salaries. And when those increases come, they are very, very paltry increases. Honorable Minister, I'd like you to comment on JOASA and ARMSA. I think they've made recommendations before about magistrates and the increases and the salaries. These are essential workers as far as I'm concerned, and we've got to pay them well. If we do not pay them well, then we're going to lose many of the good people out to other areas of law. So, Honorable Minister, I trust that you would work with the judge, and her name is Judge Liu, in ensuring that the increases that are relevant to office bearers, which include members of parliament, are made timeously and made in line with inflation. And I think the EFF members, including Honorable Sangwini, will be quite happy that I'm raising this point, because she always raises this point with me. Honorable Chairperson, the other issue that I would like to raise is the issue of the court infrastructure and buildings. There's going to come a time when between Public Works and the department, there's going to be a meeting of minds, because we find many facilities are in a very, very poor state of repair, and then we've got to address these. Sorry, Honorable Chair. Yes.
Time is up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I trust the Minister will respond appropriately.
Speaker is Honorable Maldo.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, members. On the 2nd May 2023, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services addressed the committee on the relevant political priorities regarding the Office of the Chief Justice, and highlighted that the Office of the Chief Justice will continue to ensure that all South Africans have access to justice. It should also be noted that the 2023 budget adopted theme, Navigating Economic Recovery, acknowledges that budgeting takes place in a challenging global and domestic environment, and that the report make mention of that medium-term fiscal policy aims to achieve a balance between stimulating the economy, maintaining fiscal sustainability, and strengthening welfare for vulnerable citizens through the protection of the social wage. However, Honourable House Chair, the economy has weakened, and although revenue performance was better than estimated in the 22 budget, at a domestic level, finances are severely constrained. The report is unfortunately silent and without any reference to the detrimental financial effect of state capture and the impact thereof on the Department and Office of the Chief Justice's ability to fulfill its core function to provide administrative support to the judiciary. Honourable Chair, I also wish to remind Honourable Minister Ramola, who is a firm believer and supporter of cadre deployment, that cadre deployment was instrumental to state capture in the first place. Honourable Chair, the current state of the economy of the South African government, state and budget cuts impact directly on the ability of the Office of the Chief Justice to ensure an efficient court system and provide judicial support, and the Office of the Chief Justice has already reported that the restricted budget has impacted on the filling of critical posts. Although the Office of the Chief Justice achieved an unqualified audit, it is alarming that the outcome has regressed largely as a result of various instances of irregular expenditure that occurred in the ICT environment. The Freedom Front Plus notes the Minister's statement that the policy on judicial governance and court administration had now reached the stage where it's ready for engagement with stakeholders as far as envisaged the transformation to a single judiciary. At Honourable Chair, the Minister should realize with all respect that the single judiciary on its own will not fix fundamental shortcomings, inefficiencies, and other challenges that our judicial system experiences. Efficient training of prosecutors and aspirant judges is now more important than ever, considering the outcome of the Judicial Service Commission pointed out that the judgments of several of the candidates delivered while they were acting as judges were riddled with mistakes, ranging from typographical errors to misunderstandings of foundational legal concepts. The recent unfortunate turn of events in the Vrede judgment in the Free State High Court, where the National Prosecuting Authority now wants to appeal against the ruling of acting Judge Gusha in the first state capture case in the Free State, is but one example. State versus state, nog 'n vrugtelose uitgawe, agterbare voorsitter. The Honourable Minister Lamola should critically assess the conduct of prosecutors and acting judge involved in the failure of this critical trial, as well as investigating directorate of the National Prosecuting Authority who now wishes to appeal. The Office of the Chief Justice should also be held accountable in its training support role in this instance. State negligence cannot be tolerated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be the Deputy Minister, John Jeffries.
Point of order, Chair. Swart.
Yes. Your point of order granted. We will now, Honorable Swart. My apologies.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the ACDP is deeply concerned about the delays in the policy on judicial governance. We note the Minister's statement that the department had now reached the stage where it was ready for engagement with stakeholders, with the intention to finalize by October this year. Now, we appreciate the judiciary's frustration with the lack of finality, given that reports from former Chief Justices Chaskerson and Longa were tabled way back in 2013. That's 10 years ago. The finalization of this policy must be a priority. Not only is the establishment of a single judiciary a constitutional imperative, but also the lack of an appropriate policy contributes to many inefficiencies and other challenges that the judiciary experiences. Chair, IT continues to play an important role in ensuring efficient court systems. The court online system consists of case management and an evidence management case lines components. And while the ACDP appreciates that the court online system is still in a pilot phase and that the case lines component is subject to litigation, we trust that the whole system will be rolled out to more courts, given the benefits it offers. And we as the ACDP have personally experienced in litigation the benefits that case lines does offer. The OCJ continues to be affected by budget cuts that were made to its baseline as a result of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and other issues relating to the economy. And this is despite receiving additional resources. We as the ACDP believe that additional capacity must be given to the OCJ's office. During recent oversight visits, we witnessed many serious infrastructure maintenance related problems. Courts are dilapidated and there are serious structural challenges. And the committee heard complaints from the judiciary, frustrated at drawn into managing issues around court management. This must be addressed. Load shedding also impacts court performances, and whilst the SCA thankfully is now exempt from load shedding, almost all superior courts have generators. Challenges remain at magistrates' courts and where there may be no water at high courts due to load shedding affecting water pumps. This again affects the courts which have to close when there is no water. Lastly, the ACDP would like to express its appreciation to the judiciary for its hard and committed work under Chief Justice Zondo and to the Office of the Chief Justice for the support it provides under very difficult budgetary and other conditions. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart. The next speaker, the Deputy Minister.
Thanks, House Chair, Honourable House Chair, Minister Ronald Lamola, Deputy Minister Patikile Holomisa, who's on the platform, Minister and Deputy Ministers who may be on the platform, members of the Portfolio Committee, honourable members, members of the Judiciary, officials of the Office of the Chief Justice. Our courts are fundamental for upholding the rule of law, protecting human rights, and ensuring that justice is served in a fair and impartial manner. They play a critical role in interpreting and enforcing the provisions of the Constitution. They're critical to ensuring accountability and transparency in both the government and the private sectors. They are an essential component of our democracy and play a crucial role in protecting the rights and freedoms. It is for these reasons that we must support and strengthen our courts as much as we can. Although the support to the magistrates' courts is still administered by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, magistrates are part of the judiciary and should thus, as part of the concept of a single judiciary, form part of this debate. The Minister of Justice and Correctional Services has recently appointed 43 regional magistrates for various regional divisions across the country. Their appointment is with effect from the beginning of this month. I, on the recommendation of the regional court presidents and the chief magistrates, continue to appoint acting magistrates in vacant offices or in the place of magistrates on leave or on suspension to ensure that the courts continue to function effectively. This means that where there is a vacancy in a magistrate's post, the post is filled by an acting appointment. A fully transformed judiciary is a constitutional imperative. The new appointments of those regional magistrates will further enhance diversity in our courts in terms of both race and gender, with 57% of the appointments being women and 79% being black. Of the new appointments, 28% are black males, 14% are white males, 50% are black females, and 7% are white females. The appointments are an important step in capacitating our judicial officers and our courts so as to enable them to deliver justice for all. Our magistrates' courts are where most people encounter the justice system for the first time. If the magistrate courts work well, it builds trust and confidence in the justice system. In addition to the 43 new regional magistrates, the Minister also appointed at the same time a senior magistrate as a judicial quality assurance officer in the Ethics Division of the Magistrates Commission, in addition to the 2 senior magistrates who were transferred to that division or office in the Commission, as well as 2 senior magistrates to serve as judicial educators at the South African Judicial Education Institute, or SAJE. 259 posts of entry-level magistrates and the post of Regional Court President of the Northwest were advertised recently by the Magistrates Commission with a closing date of the 21st of April. The South African Judicial Education Institute is crucial to a strong and independent judiciary. In October last year, the SAJE Council unanimously agreed that a judge should be appointed to head SAJE, or the concept of a judge heading SAJE. 6 members of council were nominated to constitute a subcommittee under the leadership of the Deputy Chief Justice to consider all factors relating to the appointment as a judge of head of SAJE and report to council. For this purpose, the Department of Justice has prepared an amendment bill to amend the South African Judicial Education Act so as to make provision for a judge to head the institute and to provide for their functions. The draft bill will soon be considered by SAJE, in fact on Friday, of the SAJE Council, whereafter it will formally be submitted to the Minister for consideration and submission to Cabinet. Honourable members, many of our judges and our magistrates are women. As the Minister raised earlier, this year is a significant one, and on the 25th of April this year, the High Courts in both Pretoria and Johannesburg held ceremonial sittings to commemorate the centenary of the Women Legal Practice Act of 1923. Prior to this act, the courts had ruled in Schlesien versus Incorporated Law Society, which was a 1909 case, and Incorporated Law Society versus Wookie, a 1912 case, that women were not included as persons who could be admitted to legal practice. The Act, the 1923 Act, expressly opened the door to women by decreeing that, and I quote, "Women shall be entitled to be admitted to practice and be enrolled as advocates, attorneys, notaries public, or conveyancers in any province of the Union, subject to the same terms and conditions as apply to men." And this led to women becoming legal practitioners. Here we think of the first woman advocate, Irene Geffen, and the first woman attorney, Constance Mary Hall. Desiree Finckler became the first black woman attorney, which was only in 1967. As we celebrate and honor these pioneering women, we reflect on the journey of women in the legal profession, and we reaffirm our commitment to a bench which is truly representative of the people of our country. Chairperson, the new Magistrates Bill and the new Lower Courts Bill have been long outstanding, and I also referred to them in the OCJ budget debate last year. The bills were advertised by the Department for Public Comment, and in December last year, we briefed representatives from the lower court judiciary on the various inputs received on the 2 bills. I had also indicated that there are a number of matters which still require policy decisions to be taken, and that we will have further meetings in the course of 2023 with a view to submit the 2 bills to Cabinet for approval for them to be introduced to Parliament. For example, one of the matters that will require policy decision is the proposal by the magistracy that they be called judges. This will also require input from the Chief Justice as head of the judiciary. We've since been informed by the Leader of Government Business that given the number of bills already before Parliament and the fact that we really only have the remainder of this year to finalize bills giving the upcoming elections next year, that we have to reprioritize the submission of any further bills. Given the comprehensive amendments contained in the bills, it will not be possible to introduce them to Parliament this year, but it's important to highlight that discussions and consultations will continue in order to have them ready for introduction after the 2024 elections. We will soon communicate with the lower court judiciary on a date to continue with the consultation on the 2 bills, and will also further consult with the Chief Justice in this regard. These bills, once passed, indeed will be a culmination of a significant milestone in the administration of justice in our country. Honourable members, we need to ensure that the department moves more expeditiously in providing the magistracy with the necessary tools of trade and the necessary equipment so that the courts can function optimally. We are constitutionally bound to improve our efficiency in this regard. Of paramount importance going forward is the rationalization of the judicial establishment of the lower courts, as it will impact not only on the vacant posts in which persons are appointed to act, but also on permanent posts of magistrates that will become vacant in the near future. The Committee on the Rationalization of the Lower Courts Judicial Establishments is making progress. The second phase of the rationalization process, which entails the rationalization of the judicial establishments of the district and regional courts, as well as the geographical areas of the chief magistrates' clusters for the district courts, is underway. The rationalization process is a constitutional imperative to promote access to justice and will take into account the rationalized magisterial districts, the current judicial establishments, and the factors as stipulated in the committee's approved terms of reference. The committee is chaired by Mr. Sam Makamu, a regional court magistrate, Advocate Ima Shile, the former chief magistrate of Gauteng, Dr. Connie September, and Mr. Anton Prinsloo, a senior magistrate for judicial ethics, and they are appointed as additional members to this committee. The committee is expected to submit their report by the end of November this year in terms of the approved terms of reference. Internal processes are at an advanced stage for contracting service providers to conduct the quantitative analysis on the one hand and the qualitative research on the other hand. And the appointment of researchers to perform these tasks, amongst others, accessing information, facilitating information transfers between the departments and the researchers and managing stakeholders. The committee's consultations began in March this year with the cluster heads and regional court presidents who have also supplied written submissions. The committees also met with the Regional Court Presidents Forum last month and will be meeting the Chief Magistrates Forum next week. Other stakeholders will be consulted as per the committee's roadmap and action plan. I want to mention that I approached the Deputy Minister of Finance for assistance regarding the development of a separate financial manual for magistrates. This will assist in further removing the lower court judiciary from the public service dispensation. Magistrates have now been excluded from the national travel policy, which came into effect on the 1st of September last year. A separate travel and subsistence policy has been implemented for the magistracy, which will be incorporated into the revised financial manual. The Department of Justice will also have to approach the Accountant General to submit a request with motivation for a departure from Treasury Instruction number 3 of 2017-18. The intention of the manual is to have one core document that will include, amongst others, travel and subsistence, catering, hiring of venues, tools of trade such as cellular phones and mobile data, as well as other expenditure for the magistrates. We trust that we will be able to, in a position to submit the financial manual for magistrates to the Director General and the Minister for approval by the end of September this year. Chairperson, case flow blockages and roll collapses in the magistrates' courts remain a matter of serious concern. I therefore want to commend the Regional Court President's Forum for convening a meeting to be held on the 20th of June next month with stakeholders such as the Department of Justice, the National Prosecuting Authority, Legal Aid South Africa, as well as private legal practitioners for an in-depth discussion with a view to agree on resolutions on the way forward. To conclude, honourable members, our magistrates' courts and our magistracy are the very foundation of our quest to ensure access to justice for all and putting justice services within reach of everyone, especially the poor and the marginalised. The public should be able to have confidence in our courts and know that justice will be done without fear or favour. I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Allow me to, at the very outset, say the National Freedom Party will support the budget vote tabled here today. But Chairperson, Minister and Deputy Minister and Chair, I think one of the problems lies with your department. If you hear all the complaints, the concerns that are being raised, and I think you should be doing what I've asked the Minister of Police to do. You come to us with your plan and tell us this is all what we require to address the challenges we face in our department. And your job as politicians is to give us the resources. If you can't give us the resources, we can't do it. Instead of we insulting you, complaining, raising concerns and attacking you, at the same time we're admitting that your budget is being cut, you don't have enough resources, so you can't deliver the goods. So how do you deliver the goods if you're not given the tools to deliver the goods? And that's the problem your department is facing. I'll give you one good example when I say this. Everyone in this house understands and knows that the issue of maintenance and things when it comes to infrastructure, which falls under the domain of the public works, is in a state of paralysis or in a crisis. But what has anybody done to help any of these departments that faces a crisis because your infrastructure is collapsing? I'll take you, if you want, to the court here in Cape Town. You know, the people working there have to remind every person that's entering there to please close the door behind you because it won't close on its own. That's how bad the situation is. So the question is, what you need to do is push the buck onto us and say, you are the ones passing the budget. These are all our problems if you want us to get the house, because we are not superhuman. We need the resources. Bring the resources, deal with these concerns, and we'll solve the problems. I think that's basically them. But in having said that, I want to raise a concern, I think, of the regional court president who has been suspended for many years. I think it's Eric Zimande, I think his name is. And the problem I have with that chairperson is that it's costing taxpayers money. For years, he's been suspended, but he's sitting at home and getting paid. Over and above him sitting and getting paid, it means somebody had to replace him who's also getting paid. So it simply means it's a waste of taxpayers' money. And I think it's something that we need to deal with as a matter of urgency. But the other problem that I think I want to raise is this, that, and yes, indeed, I think some have raised it, the delays in giving judgments. There is certainly a problem, and also on trial dates, which seems to be quite a long waiting period. But given the fact that you have certain challenges in terms of budgetary constraints, we can understand that we can't expect miracles. And that is why I want to repeat, while the National Freedom Party supports this budget, it's certainly not enough for you to achieve what you want to achieve and bring it back to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nieuwhout-Draken.
Honorable Chairperson, members of the three arms of state, South African public watching, honorable colleagues, all protocol observed. The ANC supports this budget vote. In April this year, there we celebrated 100 years of women within the legal profession. This milestone comes against the backdrop of serious exclusion on the part of women. This was through the Women Legal Practice Act in 1923, where women were allowed to enter the legal profession. Prior to the act, women was not considered to be a person who could be admitted for legal practice. And this act opened the doors for women by stating that women can be admitted to the legal practice as attorneys, lawyers, advocates, notaries, conveyancers in any province of the Union, subject to the same terms and conditions as applied to men. We celebrate women like Irene, who was the first woman to enter as an advocate in 1923. Constance Irene Giffen, and then Constance Mary Hall was the first woman to be enrolled as an attorney, and Desiree Findra as the first Black woman enrolled as an attorney in 1967. Without their bravery and resilience, we would not be where we are today. The girl child can be inspired to join the legal profession and the bench. Chairperson, as a nation, we recently celebrated 29 years of democracy. Compared to more mature democracies in different parts of the world, our democracy is still relatively young. Nevertheless, we must pride ourselves in the democratic gains for which we have fought very hard and won. Among them is existence of an independent and impartial judiciary. What we have today, we did not always have. When considering the journey traversed as a nation, it may be prudent to consider the status quo and juxtapose it with what we once had. In the 1934 appeal court ruling, in the case of Sachs versus Minister of Justice, the then acting Chief Justice Stratford made the following statement about the nature of parliamentary sovereignty in South Africa. Parliament may make any encroachment it chooses upon the life, liberty, and property of any individual subject to its way, and that it's the function of the courts of law to enforce its will. In the 1989 Harare Declaration, the ANC committed itself to be the kind of system of judicial review that is currently in place in South Africa, affirming that in a democratic South Africa, all shall enjoy universally recognized human rights, freedoms, and civil liberties, protected under an entrenched Bill of Rights. South Africa shall have a new legal system which shall guarantee equality of all before the law. South Africa shall have an independent and non-racial judiciary. The ANC's commitment to the rule of law, separation of powers, the administration of justice, and building a strong state institutions is reflected by the separate budget vote on the office of the Chief Justice. Regarding administration of justice, the ANC in the 1997 Mafeking Conference resolved inter alia to rationalize the magistracy and judiciary into a single judiciary, to rationalize the court system to provide at least for a high court in each province, which should be situated in the capital of such province, to introduce legislation to give effect to Section 180 of the Constitution by providing for a training program for judicial officers, which includes sensitization and capacity building components and a grievance procedure and mechanisms for complaints against judicial officers. Much work has been done by the ANC government to implement all these resolutions. The ANC has been clear that judicial training and skills development of our judiciary is a non-negotiable and must be vigorously pursued, and that appropriate mechanisms should be established to pursue the priority of establishing an adequate pool of judicial officers who are steeped in and reflect the progressive values of our Constitution. The South African Judicial Education Institute, SAJE, was established as a national education and training institute to enhance judicial accountability and the transformation of the judiciary. It was established to further educate and train aspiring and newly appointed judicial officers with the purpose of advancing their capacity and skills in the judiciary system, as well as a continuous education and development of experienced judicial officers. The SAJE is primarily directed and controlled by the judiciary. It was reported that on 25 January 2023, the SAJE held a launch of the Aspirant Women Judge Program at the Office of the Chief Justice. The program, which will be a year-long program, will include in-person lectures, training components, and a mentorship program, or mentorship component. It was reported that 15 women would participate in the program. The program is intended to give intensive training, skills, experience, and knowledge that would assist aspirant women judges to reach a point where they could be considered for appointment as judges. This is indeed a progressive move, and we hope that this budget will cater for this and similar progressive transformative programs. Chairperson, prior to the adoption of the Constitution, judges were appointed by the state president through the inherited tap-on-the-shoulder system. In practice, although there were occasional and often notorious exceptions, the Minister of Justice and the head of the relevant court wielded great power, essentially making the selection, which was ultimately rubber-stamped by the state president. The primary and most damaging consequences of this system of selection were that the lack of transparency shrouded in mystery the process by which an entire arm of government was appointed, and almost all appointees were from the ranks of senior counsel, resulting in an exclusively white and, with one exception, male judiciary by 1990. The creation of the JSC and the processes it has adopted in relation to the appointment of judges have gone to a great extent towards addressing the problems associated with the earlier system. The decision by the JSC to hold open interviews for prospective candidates is one that is rightly lauded. It promotes transparency in the selection of judges and acts as an accountability mechanism for the JSC, since the public can assess whether it is performing its constitutionally mandated task properly or appropriately. This is all happening under the ANC government. And for that reason, Chair, I repeat, the ANC adopts and approves this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I serve on forums consisting of members of parliament from over 40 countries, and I'm very proud to say that they are very proud and speak well of our Chief Justice and all the special courts that he's responsible for, the superior courts and the people courts. And this sets an example for the rest of Africa. However, the Chief Justice needs to be capacitated. And I don't think that the Minister and the Deputy Minister fought hard enough to get as much money as possible that the Office of the Chief Justice needs. The Office of the Chief Justice is nowhere ready to embrace the fourth industrial revolution. I haven't seen any orderlies who are robots in our courts. And we need to move in that direction. Honorable House Chair, we noticed that the court system has been improved because of proner courts, especially in the labor court. And so the courts are not clogged with unnecessary cases. We like to, Al-Jamaa would like to thank the legal profession for their assistance in the pro bono courts of the labor court. I had a small role to play as a member of SASLAW in establishing these pro bono courts. However, these pro bono courts should also be in all our other courts, especially the so-called lower courts, so that people can have access to the best legal firms in the country, so that the poor can have access. When it comes to legal aid, Honorable Chair, they're doing a good job, but a lawyer that belongs to a firm has quite a lot of resources. He has got the counsel of his colleagues. They've got the resources. So pro bono courts is something that we need to look at. The Constitutional Court needs to, the judgments of a Constitutional Court needs to be supported by the Department of Justice themselves. They don't implement the judgments of the Constitutional Court. We saw that they've done nothing about the amendment to the Divorce Act, 12 months down the line and 12 months to go. So we feel that the department must do more to support the Chief Justice. Lastly, Honorable Chair, Honorable House Chair. Lastly, Honorable House Chair, we would like to ask that the Chief Justice takes the lead to establish Sharia courts now that the Constitutional Court has said that Sharia marriage is a valid South African marriage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The next speaker will be Honorable Horn.
Thank you, House Chair. Judicial independence is a fundamental precondition for the rule of law, for functional constitutional democracy, and in practical terms, for ordinary citizens to be afforded a real and fair opportunity for their disputes with one another and with the state to be adjudicated in an impartial and objective manner. In South Africa, the Office of the Chief Justice was established as a separate department in 2010 to give some effect to the constitutional imperative that the judiciary be independent. And since 2015, it's been apportioned its own budget. A fresh, clean start. Therefore, Chair, when the first reports of some irregular and wasteful expenditure arose a year or two later, this Parliament, often accosted for failing in its oversight duties, ironically amongst others by our courts, warned the OCJ that the judiciary should be beyond reproach when it comes to financial governance, and therefore it should sharpen up internal oversight to prevent the problem from recurring or becoming bigger. Unfortunately, this was not done. And just after the debate on this budget vote took place last year, we sadly learned that 3 former senior officials had been implicated in major tender irregularities regarding case lines, a component of the court modernization and online system. Chair, in terms of the principle of separation of powers, this Parliament, through its committees, is entrusted with the duty to oversee the way in which all institutions who receive public funds to perform their functions and duties spend it. In this regard, it's of grave concern that the Office of the Chief Justice has not been prepared to account fully to the Portfolio Committee on this case line saga. The same type of "we are investigating it and to share with you what we know" might jeopardize the investigation attitude, which is typical of institutions who see accountability as an irritation and who wants to evade it, has unfortunately characterized the stance of the OCJ on this matter. Chair, this should, however, not deter us from supporting the further evolution of the institutional independence of the judiciary. If anything, it should only awaken us to the need to be forever vigilant about ensuring that proper checks and balances and oversight and accountability systems are put in place, even in the case of the judiciary. The judiciary, as far back as 2013, as others have said, adopted the report on the type of court administration model it believes should be the final model that would enable full institutional judicial independence, a judicially led court administration model. Since then, and for a full decade now, the executive has, in what can only be described as a prime example of obstinacy and obstructionism, delayed, failed, and refused to deal with the substance of this proposal. Minister, the way in which you have simply, without even resisting it, allowed mediocrity to define your term up to now, is well illustrated by the manner in which you told the Portfolio Committee on 3 May last year that you were then just about to table the Department of Justice's own research into future court administration models before Cabinet, in order to finally engage the judiciary on their report, followed on 2 May this year, a full year later, without any sense of shame, by a statement to the Portfolio Committee that you're confident that your policy on this will be finalized soon. Today we hear soon is seemingly October. Chair, closely linked to this is the lower courts bill, the tabling of which has been labelled as being imminent since 2014, and which is supposed to establish a single judiciary and bring the magistrates' courts properly under the authority of the OCJ. It also remains just a mirage. Today, the Deputy Minister say they were caught unawares by the fact that we will be having elections next year, and that's going to prevent the tabling. Well, we know the ANC desperately wants to avoid those elections, but they are coming. Chair, the key takeaways from our oversight visits as a Portfolio Committee over the last year and a half to all provinces was, not surprisingly, firstly, how the current model of public works through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is preventing maintenance and upgrading of court infrastructure rather than enabling it. And secondly, how officials of the Department of the Office of the Chief Justice more or less spent all of their times begging not only Public Works, but also the Department of Justice to perform the duties and functions that are essential to the proper functioning of our courts. Functions that are a natural and obvious fit for the Office of the Chief Justice and which should have been transferred to it long ago. Minister, there's a small window of opportunity to give your term of office some semblance of credibility. Don't delay further. Act to remove the way in which the OCJ remains largely dependent on the Department of Justice and transfer those shared functions to the OCJ. And let me make it clear on behalf of the Judiciary Minister that if you hold the view that this government can sit on the Judiciary's proposals on the court administration model for a decade and then finalize your policy without proper, full and substantive further engagement with the Judiciary, you will end your term without any credibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, I'm informed that Honorable Janji left 7 minutes, which he wishes to donate to Honorable Maseko Jele. The Honorable Maseko Jele, you have 17 minutes.
Honorable Chairperson, members of the executive, ministers and Minister and the Deputy Minister, members of the legislature, members of the judiciary, compatriots, comrades and friends, let me join the celebration of women participation in legal practice, a centenary, and also, Chair, note the progress as far by the ANC, African National Congress, the organization which is in charge, which is ready for the coming election 2024 to take over again in order to finish what we have started. The African National Congress supports the budget vote 27 on the Office of Chief Justice. People are entitled to live in just and social inclusive society where their dignity and self-worth are cherished and kept intact. People are the bedrock of our democracy. Institutions like judiciary, which yield public power, are at their service. The importance a strong and independent judiciary cannot be overstated. It is part of the transformation enterprise and the democratic project to make our country reflect the text and living spirit of our Constitution. This budget vote is a reflection of the ANC commitment to the upholding of the rule of law, separation of powers, the administration of justice, accountability, responsiveness, and openness. As we know, courts are the final arbiters in disputes between persons and bodies. An independent and strong judiciary is important for building a capable, ethical, and developmental state as envisioned by the National Development Plan. The Chief Justice, as head of judiciary authority, exercises authority and responsibility over the development and implementation of norms and standards for the exercise of judiciary functions, such as the allocation of judges and administration of courts. The OCJ core function is that of providing administrative support to the judiciary and has adopted the following strategic outcomes: effective and efficient administrative support, improve court efficiency, enhance judiciary education and support. The OCJ responds to Chapter 4 of the National Development Plan, promoting accountability, fighting corruption, particularly contributing to the focal area, strengthen judicial governance and the rule of law by accelerating reforms to implement judiciary-led court administration, ensuring an efficient court system, reducing inefficiencies in the administration of the courts, and ensuring access to justice. Chairperson, in his 2023 budget speech, the Minister of Finance indicated that government would be doing a number of things, including ensuring a state macroeconomic framework to create a conducive environment for savings, investment, and growth, and strengthening the capacity of the state to deliver quality public services, investing in infrastructure and fighting crime and corruption. The minister announced that 14 billion has been allocated over the medium term to fight crime and corruption, with the following specific allocations. The National Prosecuting Authority receives 1.3 billion to support the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission and the Financial Action Task Force. The Financial Intelligence Center is allocated an additional amount of 265.3 million to tackle organized and financial crime. The Special Investigating Unit is allocated 100 million to initiate civil litigation in the Special Tribunal following from proclamations linked to the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. While these budget allocations do not form part of this particular budget, Budget Vote 27, they are indeed welcome as they speak directly to our government priority on fighting crime and corruption. The fight against crime and corruption cannot be viewed in isolation. Most of these cases will ultimately come before the courts. In the context of addressing any social injustice or dispute, the relationship between all the role players within the justice value chain is important for justice to prevail. Chairperson, it has been reported that over the next 3 years, the Office of Chief Justice will focus on improving access to justice and the services of the superior courts and increase access to judicial education courses. The work of the Superior Court Services Program is intended to enable access to justice, primarily by ensuring that the judiciary is supported. The program has a budget of 3.1 billion over the next 3 years, accounting for 39.9% of the department's total allocation. To strengthen access to its services, the department aims to fill an estimated 33 critical positions for registrars, clerks, and judges, secretaries at superior courts. That's very important to listen to Mr. Horn, Honorable Horn. On this one, Mr. Swart, the department increased efficiencies to increase efficiencies, such as the turnaround time in dealing with cases. The court online system is expected to be rolled out in 2024 to 7 prioritized superior courts in Eastern Cape. 1, Free State, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northern Cape, Northwest and Western Cape. We will be monitoring this. And this must be commended, Minister. And we're looking forward to that one. And this is also the most important area that will also alleviate the problem of the files that honorables were referring to. So I'm sure they are getting their answers now. Last year, the OCJ receives an unqualified audit opinion with findings on compliance with legislation. Although the OCJ remains unqualified, the outcome is a regression, as the OCJ has achieved a clean audit opinion since 2017-18. We encourage the department to focus on and address the root causes of the issues which were flagged by the Auditor General. Over the years, the Portfolio Committee has noted the inadequacies in ICT security and user access management, as well as ICT operational inefficiencies as being areas for concern. The OCJ assured the committee that it is working hard to strengthen its ICT environment. We will be monitoring this one too, Chair. On this one, Chair, we refuse to join the allegation and unfounded allegations against the Chief Justice by taking this opportunity to thank the Chief Justice Zondo for his leadership as head of Judiciary. We also wish to thank all the hardworking and dedicated members of Judiciary who ensure that justice is dispersed and that South Africa is the best place to be. We want to also thank the Minister and welcome and appreciate the appointment of women, 50% of women during their appointment that has been done not long. We want to thank you, Minister, for the work that you are doing with the team, and we also encourage you to continue doing it. Don't listen to the distractors on this one. The ANC support Budget 27. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next and last speaker will be the Honorable the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services.
Yeah, thank you very much, House Chairperson. And thank you to all the valuable inputs by honorable members, including the support of the budget. This support for this budget will go a long way in responding to the challenges raised by honorable members here on infrastructure, which we are working very hard with the DPW to resolve some of these infrastructure challenges. And as a result, some of the powers to deal with the maintenance and some of the minor infrastructural challenges have been devolved to the Office of the Chief Justice. The House should also appreciate the work done by the Office of the Chief Justice in alleviating the challenges of load shedding throughout the country. This House was criticizing this office for having not provided that alternative. Today, the office has done so. The House is now shifting the goalpost. But it is a reality that most of the high courts have now been mitigated or cushioned against the effects of load shedding across the country, with the exception of only 5. And those 5 some of them is the local division, the Western Cape High Court, the Labour Court in the Western Cape, East London Circuit Court Service Centre, the Labour Court in Devon. And there's also an innovation to put solar systems in some of the courts where it is practically possible. And I do think that this House should commend this good work by the Office of the Chief Justice. And this is also being extended to some of our busy magistrate or lower courts across the country to mitigate against the effects of load shedding, so that even during difficult times, the courts are still able to function. And I must state that the President, with regards to the appointment of the Chief Justice, has acted so in accordance with the Constitution. Section 1743 of the Constitution prescribes that the President appoints the Chief Justice after consulting the Judicial Service Commission and the leaders of parties represented in the National Assembly. When he appointed the Chief Justice in March 2022, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, the President did so after consulting the JSC, which favored the President with his views following public interviews in February, as well as leaders of the parties represented in the National Assembly. Most of the members who were speaking here, they were consulted, including the EFF and everyone. They participated in this process. The President even opened this process to members of the public to share his powers with them in an innovative way that allowed members of the public to participate and nominate whoever they wanted to be the Chief Justice. So the current Chief Justice is a product of the most transparent and democratic process ever made in an appointment of a Chief Justice in the Republic of South Africa. And it is in compliance with the Constitution of the Republic. So any suggestion to the contrary is absurd, is baseless, is without merit, and it must be dismissed with the contempt it deserves. We also have stated with the utmost to state that
Rise on a point of order.
It's a point of order.
The Minister is willfully and deliberately misleading the public and the House. He knows that the President did not take the recommendations of the Judicial Service Commission. And what he makes, the point he makes is deliberate distortion of what happened. I think you need to call him to order.
That would be a point of debate, Honorable Matthias. Can you proceed, Honorable Minister?
Yeah, in fact, he's the one who is distorting the Constitution. The issues raised with regards to fraudulent court orders, we continue to strengthen internal controls and awareness to the public, and cases have been opened against 3 legal practitioners and 7 members of the public with regards to the issue of the fraudulent court orders. And a number of issues raised by honorable members have been taken into cognizance, and we thank you for supporting the adoption of this budget. We believe that though not sufficient, it will, and we will continue to encourage and call that they must be given more support and resources, which we continuously do. And that is in line with our work for the office to function efficiently, for access to justice in our country. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session, and the mini plenary will now rise.
Wait.